Young entrepreneurs are building empires in record time. Kylie Jenner became a billionaire at 21 years old. Mr. Beast is gonna sell more chocolate than Hershey's, and Logan Paul and KSI are going to catch Gatorade. So what do each of these influencers have in common that's helped them build huge brands in such a short period of time? Well, in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what their strategy is and explain why I think Bryan Johnson is doing the exact same thing and he's gonna build a $55 million olive oil empire. Now, if you haven't heard of Bryan Johnson, back in 2013, before he was a biohacking madman, Bryan was just a burnt out CEO. He ran a company called Braintree that he sold to PayPal for over $800 million. But after running his body into the ground, he became obsessed with getting healthy and is now on a mission to prove that humans can live forever. I know it sounds crazy. In the past 8 months, he's reversed his epigenetic age by more than 5 years and says that he's aging slower than the average 10-year-old. I've watched him go from a nobody to gaining 1 million followers in under 12 months. So in this video, I want to break down his crazy marketing strategies that he's using to grow incredibly fast. But to understand his strategy, we first need to understand the new wave of marketing that has just been born. You see, since the rise of social media, something very interesting has happened. Smart marketers, founders, and celebrities have all discovered the new way to sell their product and make millions. A great example is Kylie Jenner. She launched Kylie Cosmetics in 2015 and sold out of her lip kits in just minutes. 4 years later, she's the youngest billionaire in history. Then there's this random kid from North Carolina who went from making weird YouTube videos to selling $10 million worth of chocolate in just a few months and is possibly, arguably, already a billionaire. And when Logan Paul and KSI released Prime in 2022, just 1 year later, they became the second largest sports drink in the world, just behind Gatorade. But don't think for a second that these guys made millions just because they have a big audience, because you'd be wrong. There's much more to the story. You see, Beyonce had 100 million followers when her brand Ivy Park failed miserably in 2022. Adidas thought that the brand would make over $250 million in sales, like a lot of these other people, but then they only reached 40 million in sales. Another example is Rihanna. She had over 100 million followers when she launched her brand Fenty, but it also failed within 2 years. The reason is it's not just about building a large audience and then selling a product. There's critical steps that you need to do to make this successful. For example, Mr. Beast sold more than 1 million chocolate bars in his first 72 hours because he had a strong relationship with his audience. He spent 10 years putting his heart and soul into creating the most crazy videos so that when he finally released a product, people went crazy over it. We can understand why Beyonce and Rihanna failed when Logan and Mr. Beast didn't by understanding the 3 R's of influencer marketing. The first R is obvious, reach, which all the influencers that we're talking about have that. But the other 2 are relevance and remarkability. Logan avoided creating just another basic influencer clothing brand. He chose sports drinks where there was no other competition other than boring, outdated corporations. It was also extremely relevant to his audience, young kids wanting to be fit. He was doing boxing and he was also doing wrestling. The followers can sense that authenticity and the connection and actually purchase and support the product. Another reason this is so important is the traditional methods of marketing are dying. Gone are the days where you do a press release or even using Facebook ads for these consumer packaged goods just doesn't work. You need cheaper impressions. People want to have an authentic relationship to the people that are selling the product. And I think Bryan Johnson knows this. He knew that to build a big brand in 2023, it made more sense to build a social media brand than to launch with traditional advertising. The 8 months that he spent giving away all of his biohacking protocols and data for free was to build trust with his audience, to build credibility, and it's worked. In the last 6 months, Bryan has gained over 100 million views on his social media platforms. But it wasn't just his protocols that made him grow so fast. I believe Bryan is following a 4-step social media strategy that is responsible for his insane growth. I've watched him use this strategy to go from being an unknown tech CEO to becoming a viral sensation on social media. So let's rewind back to when Bryan exploded. and uncover each step that made him go viral. I think one of the first steps that he took was to form a growth team. I think he went looking for a social media expert to come up with a plan on how to grow fast. You see, what most people don't realize is the amount of time, money, and effort that goes into running these big personal brands. 90% of creators at this level have an entire team of editors, advisors, script writers, videographers, thumbnail editors, all to help manage their social media accounts. What I believe is that Brian set this up very, very early on. Then his next step was to try to land as many big influencer collaborations as possible. In the last 12 months, Brian has done podcasts and video collaborations with huge influencers or news hosts like Piers Morgan, Jesse James West, Will Tennyson, just to name a few. This strategy has been a major success, with these 4 collaborations alone receiving over 10 million views, free views. This is what we call impression farming. It's a marketing strategy when you bait your audience to cause controversy. So he's doing controversial things so that these people want to talk about his story. His weird protocols were getting him hate on Twitter, and people were calling him evil for wanting to live forever. But instead of straying away from this, Brian leaned into it. Like a villain, he was happy to be vilified. He started baiting his audience with controversial photos about harvesting his son's blood to stay young. Everyone was freaking out and saying that Brian was anti-Christ. But all he did was explode in followers. He continued to make jokes about his blood son, and all the controversy took his personal brand to a whole new level. And then finally, the last step of Brian's strategy all came down to timing. Over the past 3 years, biohacking and longevity has seen a massive uptick in interest. You just need to go onto Reddit to see it. This allowed Brian to capture all that attention because he is the leader in that space. He has the most authority. His entire plan has been executed perfectly. He's successfully gained the attention of the world and grown a massive following in such a short period of time. And I believe this was all his master plan for the olive oil drop. You see, Brian is on a strict diet that includes green smoothies and tons of vegetables. But his favorite diet secret is in his olive oil. Brian drinks his own brand of olive oil by the tablespoon, one at 8 a.m. and one at 11 a.m. He constantly talks about it and posts on social media, but he hasn't made it available to the public. He says that it's the highest quality thresholds of ingredients and it can help people live longer. Now, some people think this is a waste of time. Olive oil, it's a boring business. But here's why I think he's about to build one of the biggest olive oil brands in history. You see, we can estimate what Brian's gonna make off his olive oil brand by just breaking down the impressions and the product launches of the other influencers we've been talking about. Now, big disclaimer, this is more of an art than a science, but what we're gonna do is break down Logan Paul and KSI's monthly YouTube views and work out how much Prime made off each single video view. We can see here that for both of them, they generated about 4 to 5 million views with a combined total of roughly 9 million views. The next step is divide the total amount of money Prime made in 2022, which was $250 million, by the total number of views on their YouTube channel, which is about 108 million. This equals about $2.30 per view. So that means that for every video view on their YouTube channel, they made around $2. And now what we can do is we can use that number to multiply what Brian will make. Now, even though Brian has around 500,000 followers and Logan and KSI have 23 million, Brian is still pulling in 4 million views per month because he's so controversial. That's pretty solid for only 500,000 subscribers. That all being said, we've still got to factor in that Logan and KSI have a ton of other channels and they're also guerrilla marketing geniuses doing events. So let's halve Brian's number and say that it's about $1.15 that he's gonna get each of those views. So that makes me think that Brian's blueprint olive oil is gonna make a massive $55 million in his first year. Now I can hear you guys writing in the comments, there's a ton of differences such as the pricing of the product, the distribution model, but I can guarantee there is no chance that Brian doesn't make over $10 million in his first 12 months selling olive oil. If you want to learn more about my story and how I went from $0 to $500 million, watch this next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.